so I'm going to show you our online grants website now. So this is our online grants website. The website for it is on your handout, so it's www.wyndham.smartygrants.com.au. This page is what you'll see when you first go to the website. These are all our current rounds that are open. So our responsive grants are open all year round, so they'll always appear there. And we have a community grant round open at the moment, so that appears there. And then we have upcoming rounds here. So anything that's upcoming will be below there, and it will tell you when it's going to open. So if you want to apply for a grant, you would go to log in. So you can preview the form if you like before you've even created a login account. But if you want to submit an application, go to login. Yep. And then you would register here. So your name, your organisation, email address, and your password. If you forget your password, it's not a big deal. Just come up here and do the forgot your password button. So this is how you start an application form. So if you guys open your booklets, I've put an application form in them. Just so you can see the questions that are on it. So what we're going to do now is go back to our presentation, and I'm going to give you some tips and hints on the questions in the application form. So the first few pages are pretty standard. It's really just your application details, so your organisation, the contact name of the person, email address, all that sort of stuff. Now, if you are not incorporated, you do need to find an auspice. What that means is you can get another not-for-profit organisation to cover you as an auspice. So if your group's only little and you don't want to get incorporation, that's fine, but then you've got to find another not-for-profit who's happy to take on the legalities of your group. So you'd basically be applying for the grant under that not-for-profit's name, organisation name. So that's how that auspicing works. Okay, so question 4.2. So question 4.2 on your application form. Is what are you going to do? So we want to keep it simple here. Often we get groups that tell us, they're going to engage the community and empower the community, but they don't actually get to the point of what they're going to do. So what we want to see here is, exactly what you're going to do and how it's going to be done. So nice and to the point. So an example would be, we will work with a local provider to run a free exercise class once a week for 6 months for Wyndham residents who face significant health risks such as social isolation and other psychological conditions. So it's perfect. So it says what you're going to do, the duration of it, how long it's going to go, and the target audience it's going to affect. So it's so small but so effective. So you've got to be careful there in that question that you just tell us exactly what your project is, what you want this money for.
Mm-hmm.
4.3. So 4.3, please tell us which of the following criteria your project most closely meets. This here, you don't have to tick every single box. It's almost impossible for a project to tick every single box, so don't stress about that. With funding applications, it's best to focus on one or two things and hone in on those things as opposed to ticking everything and trying to meet everything, because then to the panel it'll look like your group's trying to achieve too much and it might be unrealistic. So just keep realistic to your targets and tick what you need. 4.7, why do you want to do the project? So this is another important question about what is the local need that you're trying to meet. So this is here where you would put the stuff about the research that I was talking about, attaching statistics, newspaper articles, that sort of stuff. Then you can say, we want to conduct this project because we got 100 survey results back from the Youth Resource Centre that say these kids are missing out on, community engagement classes or something like that. So that's where you would put the research behind it. 4.8, how will this funding positively impact the Wyndham community? consider positive impacts such as at-risk groups, opportunities for local people, people's perception of the Wyndham area, and economic value to the local area. So you might be bringing people in to Wyndham that will help the local businesses and that sort of thing. So that's what you want to look at there. Question 4.9. So question 4.9, who will benefit from the project or the program? So list here who you're aiming to benefit. So it could be the cold community, it could be youth at risk, it could be people with disabilities, it could be low socioeconomic families. So just here list your target audience. I mean, your target audience could be a range of people. If you're running an event, you know, you might not have a target audience, you might just be targeting an area, for instance, like Tarney or Truganina. You can list that here as well, that's fine. And then question 4.10 and 11, how many people will benefit from your project and how have you calculated this number? This is important because a lot of people here will just say the whole of Wyndham will benefit, but it's a little bit unrealistic. So you've just got to do a bit of an estimation. You know, obviously you can't know until you run your project exactly how many people are going to benefit, but as long as you do some sort of calculation behind where you've got your number from. So if you're running a healthy cooking class, you hope to get 10 people every class for 12 weeks. That's how you got your number. Question 4.12, how will you measure the impact of your project? This is important because we want to see that you've thought through, if you're given the money, you've thought through how you'll measure the impact of the project. So how has this money helped these people? So think of things like surveys at the end of at the end of the healthy cooking program, you'll survey all the participants. Have some key goals that you can tick off at the end of the program. Think about what data collection methods you'll use. So you might collect attendance rates at the cooking class, and they might have started to drop off because it was winter or something like that. Collect all that data, and that's really important because when you do your acquittal, if you are successful, at the end of the application process you'll have to acquit your grant, and that's where you'll have to talk about all this sort of stuff so that we can see that the funding went to a good purpose. Question 5.1 and 5.2. How are you going to deliver your project? And who will be carrying out the steps? So this is section 5 that I spoke about before. This gets 10 points in the assessment phase. So this is your project planning. So if you were successful, the panel want to see that if we were to give you the $10,000 tomorrow, that you could go with it and run your program. So you need to list every step that you'll take to get this program up and running. So it could be as simple as, step 1, appoint the facilitator for the healthy eating class. Step 2, develop posters. Step 3, market, put ads in the newspaper. Step 4, market to the community. So you just have to list everything you would do if you were given the money. You can attach your own project plan. So if you don't want to list it in the question, you can attach it on an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document, whatever's easiest for you to show you how you'll deliver the project. And then just list who's going to do it. So it could be, volunteer A is going to do the marketing, volunteer B is going to do the recruiting, that sort of stuff. Question 5.3. This is probably the most important question of your application form. Is your project ongoing? And if it is, how is it going to become sustainable? So community grants, all of our grant categories are funding grants. So they're not, you can't rely on them to keep getting them. So you might get a grant to run a program and you've built this program up and you need the $10,000 for it to keep going. You can't expect grants to keep covering it. So that would be operational. So what you need to do here is do some thinking that if you were given $10,000, how are you going to build it into your project to become sustainable once the funding ends? So that might be as simple as you're going to offer everything for free in the first year, you're going to build up your materials and your equipment and get everything going, and then after that year, you're going to charge people a gold coin donation, and that's just going to cover the rest of your things that you need to cover. It could, for instance, it could be a community centre hire, so you're hiring a hall and you're using the funding to cover the hire of the hall, the equipment, the marketing, all that sort of stuff. Once the funding ends, you might charge people a gold coin donation, and that will cover the hire of the hall for the future uses. So that's really important because the panel will look at that section just to see that your group is capable to keep going once the funding ceases. So grants don't cover the same project. They can cover an arm of a project. So if you ran a project and it's ran really well, but there's been another aspect of it that you didn't kind of run within it, you can ask for money to run another aspect of the project, just not the same project again. 6.1 and 6.2. So these are Wyndham's strategic plans and objectives. This is what I was talking about earlier. So we've put a link on the actual form when you're on Smarty Grants. There's a link to both the council plans, just so you don't have to read a 20-page document. We've been really nice and given you the page number to refer to. And we've actually pulled out the key objectives on the application form. So we've made it pretty easy for you to not have to go through the whole document. So here, we just want you to look at how you're going to fit into Wyndham's strategic direction. And they're quite broad. So again, just tick the ones that are most relevant to your program. So it could be, if we go back to my healthy cooking program, it would be healthy food for all, live active lives. And then you would go down to the question and you would explain how those objectives fit in with your project. So that's really important. This question gets ranked quite highly as well, so just keep in mind that it shows that your project is going in the same direction as council's plans. Excellent. Okay, so that's everything on the application form to keep in mind, and then at the back, at the end of the application form, it'll just ask you to attach all your supporting documentation. So as I was saying before, the process won't let you submit. So when you press submit, it won't let you submit if you've left something blank or not attached something. So just make sure you've got all that ready to go before the close date. So that's the application form. So just some general tips. Make sure your project is eligible before you start completing the application form. We really don't want you to put all that work into an application form if it's not going to be eligible. So just triple check that, have a chat to us if you want to. Make sure you complete all the questions. Any questions with a red asterisk means that it has to be answered. So if you don't answer it, it won't let you submit. Be conscious that some questions have a word limit. So you'll notice on that application form, most of the questions have a hint underneath them and it will have a word limit. That's just to keep you guys to the point, keep the, you don't want to write too much information. The panel, it'll be hard for the panel to filter through it to find the key things. So just keep your answers short, concise, and put the key information in there. Don't apply for more than $10,000 because that's all you can get. And ensure that you've demonstrated match funding. So again, if you ask for $5,000, you've got to match it with $5,000. It's very important. Make sure your application is submitted by 5 p.m. Friday, 31st of May. Okay, so ensure your expenditure, your budget is complete and accurate. Again, this could put your application to the bottom of the pile if you haven't added up your numbers right, because then the panel will look at it and they'll think that if they were to give you the money, you couldn't spend it properly because you haven't added it up properly. So just make sure that if you, that if at the start of the application form where it says how much money you're applying for, if you're applying for $10,000, in your budget section, that adds up to $10,000. We only want to see in that section what you're spending the grant money on. Anything that's over $1,000, so if your facilitator or equipment costs or anything is going to be over $1,000, you need to attach a quote to your application form. That can be as simple as going online. If it's a laptop, for instance, you could go online to Officeworks, get the laptop you want, and print screen it and attach that. That's fine. Things like that. Yep.
So just out of curiosity, is that if it totals $1,000 or if it's an individual item over $1,000?
An individual item over $1,000. Yeah, good question. Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you've got some catering, some equipment, something else that adds up over $1,000. It has to just be one item. So if one item, like a facilitator, is going to cost $1,500, then you need to put a quote on. So the greater the value of the grant, the more detail required in your application form. So if you are asking for the full $10,000, your application form needs to be good. It needs to be really detailed and specific about why you want to run the program. Save as you go. This is really important. So you'll notice at the bottom of the application form there's a save button. As you get to the bottom, every time you get to the bottom, press save. If you walk away from your computer, if you get distracted, you're working on your application, you get distracted and you walk away and you come back an hour later, it will time out and you'll lose everything you've done. So make sure you just, even if you do one question, press save. Every time you finish a question, press save so you don't lose any of your work. You can request a member of the grants team to look over your application. So if you finish your application, you've got to give us a few days grace, don't give to us on the day that it's due. But if you finish your application a week before or a few days before, just let us know and we can request access. You'll get an email saying Mal or Marie's requested access, accept that, and we can actually look at your application and we can provide you with feedback. So we can let you know, your budget doesn't add up, or this could strengthen it a little bit if you added a bit more in this section, that sort of stuff. So we can definitely have a look over it for you. We don't have any voting rights on the panel, so we are here to help you. We want to see you guys, your projects get up and get funded, so we're more than happy to look over them for you. And just remember to attach all supporting documentation. See, it's in big red block writing. We're here to help you. So don't be afraid to give us a call or an email. Our contact details are in your pack. We have a funding email address, so if one of us isn't around, someone else will get back to you. And this is our team. So we have the Manager of Social Development, which is Heather. She sits on the panel. We have a Capable Communities Coordinator, which is Diane. So as a grants team, we're a part of the Capable Communities team. I'm the Senior Grants Development Officer, and this is Marie, who's here. She's the Grants Analyst. So that makes up our team. Okay, so that's the presentation. I know you are all patiently jotting down questions, so hit me.
Do you have to have your insurance before you submit the application, or can you obtain the insurance once you've received the grant?
Look, it's good to have it beforehand, but if your project, if you only need the insurance to cover your project, and your project doesn't get funded, you wouldn't have needed the insurance.
Yeah.
So that's fine as long as you put a note in there.
Sure.
And then a condition of your grant would be,
Obviously,
you don't get the money till you charge your insurance or something.
Sure.
So that would be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, we received our first grant last year.
Oh, awesome.
So you're saying ongoing funding may be an issue.
Yes.
So can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because we use it for a project, not
Yep.
a program, a one-off project around Christmas.
Yeah. So I know which project it was. Yeah. So basically, because there are so many community groups out there and so many projects and things, we can't fund the same program again.
Okay.
So you'd have to try and maybe revamp it a little bit, and then have a different aim for it maybe. So instead of you could target a different group or target a different area, then it would have a whole new feel to it. So it could have the same. It could be the same project, but you're targeting another section, or you put another spin on it for something different.
I'll talk to you about that in a minute.
Yeah, and after this, if you
Yeah.
guys want to talk to us about your specific projects, we're more than happy to stay back and talk to you. Any other questions about the form? Yeah?
I have a couple of questions, so you want me to go through one by one or later on?
Sure. Go.
The community grant, will a pilot for a bigger project in the future be okay?
Definitely, and we definitely encourage those sort of projects, especially for responsive grants.
Okay.
Because if you run a pilot program for $1,000 and it's a huge hit, and you've got all these stats on it, that'll give you some great evidence to get the $10,000. But you can run a pilot program for the $10,000, and then if it's worked, you can apply again for community grants. That's something I need to say as well. You can apply for as many community grants as you like. You can put 3 applications in from the same organisation if you wish. So it doesn't matter. There's no limit on that. Whereas with responsive grants, you can only, if you're successful with one, you can only then apply again in 6 months.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's fine. Question 2.
Now, you just answered my second question.
Oh,
about
okay.
Responsive grant, because it says in the guideline, one per individual, like individuals who have received grants in the past are not eligible to apply for another one.
Yeah, so with individuals, so if we've sponsored you to go on a state sporting event and we've given you the $500, you can't then apply again next year. So that's just to cover everyone in the community. But in terms of community groups, you can. So if you're successful, you can apply again in 6 months.
I was going to ask, Ken, if you're looking for, say, $18,000 and 2 organisations apply for a 10 and an 8 or a 2 9s?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so if it'd be a little bit tricky, but as long as one organisation is clear on their project and then the other one is clear on the other arm of the project, then it would look like 2 separate programs, but they're working together as 2 different organisations. So that'd be fine. Yeah. You just have to be careful that one doesn't get funded and the other one does, because then you might be.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Given that my project would involve a university,
Yeah.
is that going to be a problem regarding state, federal funding, not-for-profit?
Only if it's not at a local level. So as long as the project is aimed at a local level,
Okay.
then it should be fine.
Great.
Yeah. Yep.
Would you email the link so that we can just review the link, the video which you're recording?
The link for the Grants website.
No,
She wants the video.
Oh, the video. Yeah, sure.
You'll be
Yeah.
emailing us a link.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we'll hope to get this up next week sometime, and then we can email the whole room the link. Yeah, that's fine.
You've got only 2 weeks, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I saw in the application form that a letter of support is encouraged.
Yes. Yeah.
At what level would be, or what kind of support will be
Yeah,
considered?
good question. So it can be anything. Obviously, it'd be better if it didn't come from your own group. It'd be better if it came from the outside, especially a council department. So if it was to do with healthy communities, you could approach them and say, look, I'm looking to run this program and get funded. Would you support it as the Healthy Communities team at council? And they might write you a letter saying, yes, we definitely support this. We're not running anything like it. Even places like other organisations like ISIS Primary Care and those other kind of not-for-profits that are out in the community doing a heap of work, they may support your program because it ties in with their with their statistics. The Youth Resource Centre, they often support programs because they've got the stats on youth. So if you can get letters of support from outsiders, that would be great.
Sorry.
That's
Does
okay.
the university count for that as well? Because obviously if we're using their facilities, I'm sure you'd want to know that they approved it. Is
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
Cool.
that would definitely strengthen your application.
Right.
And with just on that's a good question, because if you've booked, if you're running a program, you need to make sure you've got somewhere to run it as well. And so I think there's a question in the application form that says, what have you booked and is it booked or tentative? Because we've had examples in the past where groups have gone to run events on, say, a sporting oval, and they've been successful, but then when they've gone to run it, they can't actually use that facility or that oval. So we need to make sure that before it's successful, that the recreation area or whichever area it is, the university in this case, know that you're going to use that space, and they're happy if you're successful for you to use that space.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anywhere in council we can go to talk about projects that they'd like to see happen in the community that we can assist them to facilitate? So you're saying there's projects that the council already do, but where can we find information about the gap that exists?
Yeah.
So we can actually respond to what council wants.
Yeah, that's great. That's really, really great.
Because given that our previous project may not work,
Yeah.
who can we go and see in order to find out what sort of projects we could do that could help? In the
Yeah,
area
that's a
of
great
community?
idea. So we have a community development area. We can send you the contacts there, and there's a range of place-based community development officers and community development workers who continually, who would have that data of projects that they want to run, but they might not have the money to do it. So they would be more than happy for a not-for-profit organisation to take the lead on that. So I'll send you their contacts. Yeah, it's a great one. Anyone else? Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Our details are in your packs. Take them away. Feel free to contact us. Feel free to let us know if you want us to look at your details. come up and chat to us about your specific projects, we get it back. Thank you. Oh, nice to meet you.